Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for September 2nd. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and with me today is Kirsten. How you doing, Kirsten?
I'm good. It's been way too long since I talked live feeds, so I'm back. I'm happy to be back, and it's too bad it wasn't a more exciting day to talk about, but you know what? I'm back, and that's all that matters.
Feeds have been pretty good while you've been gone.
Yeah, but you know what? For my own mental health, I think it was really good for me to take a bit of a break.
Yes, well, I think your cat is in the background doing some dings.
Yeah, she just jumped from the floor to the top of the fridge to the top of the cabinets really fast and knocked a bunch of fridge magnets down. They're on an adventure today, so I'm really sorry for any background noise. They're on a tear. I'm really worried Vetus is gonna try to jump up, and he's not a good jumper.
Well,
So
we'll
it's
have
not
to
good.
we'll have to wait and see on the next American Kitten Warrior.
Yes.
But we are here to update you on everything that happened yesterday on the Big Brother 21 live feeds. It was day 75 in the house. And as you mentioned, not too crazy of a day here overall. A lot of the same, a lot of just reinforcing other points. But we did start the day with Cliff and Nicole talking about Nicole's talk the night before with Tommy about how she was talking with him about Jackson and Holly potentially playing both sides and how they maybe need to get on the same page. Nicole let Cliff know that Tommy told her that he is definitely voting to keep Cliff. So don't worry about it.
Yes. So even though apparently at that point in time, Tommy still is saying that he doesn't know what he's going to do with the veto, which is just ridiculous if anyone believes that at that point in time. They're like, no, it's fine. Tommy's going to keep us. We're good to go. So it's all coming together. This master plan to evict Jess this week is working perfectly for Jackson and Holly.
Somehow there are no bumps in the road here. I can't imagine why this is going so smoothly.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
She also said that Tommy told her that it felt a little weird that Jackson wanted to keep Cliff so bad, but that's fine. That clearly he doesn't already know that they're working together necessarily, but that he is a little bit suspicious of it.
Yeah, and so I think Tommy does really, really good work basically all day yesterday and the day before, just kind of planting seeds of it's weird about Jackson and Holly, but it's fine because it works for us. And I think that's something that Tommy's really, really doing very, very well.
Yes, I do. I think that he has been really, especially with Nicole, really setting her on the path of like, I don't think I can trust Jackson and Holly, which is a very good thing for Tommy. But I do feel like he kind of reverses some of that progress later in the night, which we'll talk about.
So we'll get there.
Yes, Cliff does talk to Nicole about, I can see the end. I see the path in front of us. We're really close, Nicole.
Yeah, he's like, I see it. We have a chance. It's fine. And Nicole's like, I'm just taking it one day at a time. I'm trying not to think about that. And it's kind of a cute conversation.
I'm right there with them. Like I see this path for Cliff and Nicole. Like they are in a very good spot right now to make it far in this game, and I feel like for a while now, or for a while in the game, Tommy and Christy felt like the game was theirs, that they were running the game, everything was going to go really smoothly, and then the past few weeks they've just been completely out of control, haven't been able to do anything, and it almost feels like they're kind of defeated right now. They're kind of like, we've seen the shift from like on top to now they're just like, hanging on. And the people, and now you're seeing Jackson and Holly start to feel like they're on top of everything when actually they're not. And in the meantime, it's Cliff and Nicole being like, no, I think we have this. And they're the most correct.
Yeah, and it's almost like the sense I get from Nicole is like she sees it too, but she doesn't want to jinx it. Like she's worried that if they talk about it, then they'll fall to just like the other big pairs have fallen over the course of the game.
Yes. So Christy and Tommy also talk about the conversation Tommy had with Nicole, saying that we kind of compared notes, and we saw that Jackson and Holly are maybe trying to play both sides here, and Christy was happy about this. This is good news for Christy as well. She wants to try and again make sure that Nicole and Cliff are going after Jackson and Holly and not them, which is not necessarily the case yet, but they're going to work on it, and they don't trust Jackson a whole lot.
Yes, and I like in this conversation, Christy's like, yeah, there's been a few moments when I've questioned, Jackson and if he could be trusted. And it's like, oh, yeah, there's been moments, not been weeks.
Yeah. So Jackson and Holly, meanwhile, they're getting sort of reset from the night before. Jackson is still upset. And he said, we've got to work together in the game, but personally, not sure yet. Not sure where this is going to go.
Yeah, and it's really, really awkward and uncomfortable. Like the way that Holly is talking is like she wants to know, but she doesn't want to know, and she keeps saying things like, "Oh, I don't want to ask questions that I'm not ready to hear the answer to," and just very, very uncomfortable. And Jackson's like, yeah, I don't know what we'll be like personally. I'm just focusing on the game. You're the one who's always been getting ahead of yourself. And it's just the way that he interacts with her makes me so, so, so uncomfortable. And I know you touched on this yesterday, but just like that whole debacle from Saturday night was so uncomfortable. Then this conversation yesterday was also so uncomfortable. And then later on, it kind of takes a flip where he's acting all lovey-dovey. And it's just like so textbook. It's so uncomfortable.
Yeah, she's doing the thing where she knows the answer, that like if she asks the question that she'll get, and so she's trying not to ask the question and instead just trying to like pretend that everything's all right, because if she just acts happy, then maybe he'll act happy back and everything can be normal again, which is exactly what he wants, which is why he's doing the behavior in the first place, because he doesn't want to have that conversation. He just wants her to be whatever it is that she is to him, and not complain or have any issues.
It's like if you're in a relationship and you're having troubles and you're having a conversation about it and it seems like it's going well, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, what, do you want to just break up? And then it's like, no, wait, don't answer that. I don't want to hear that. And that's exactly what it is. And it's just so uncomfortable. Like, it's not good.
Yeah. There's a lot of debate about like, well, which side is right in this argument, because Holly has done things too, and Jackson is right when he says that he should be upset about being called an effing asshole, and so on and so forth. But like, it's not even about that. There's not like one side that's right in the argument and one side that's wrong. It's that they are both wrong in their own ways, but the way that Jackson is handling the conflict, that is far more wrong than anything else that's happening in the argument that they're actually having.
Yes, like it's not about the argument.
Yeah.
That like it's any little thing could trigger the argument. It doesn't matter. It's the dynamic of the relationship that's the problem here.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I don't really understand. And then there's a lot of people saying, and I know whatever, there's a lot of people saying like, oh, well, Holly's so weak, she shouldn't be doing this. First of all, she's in Big Brother. So what the hell is she supposed to do? Like, she needs this relationship for her game. So she kind of is trapped there. And then also, if you've never had that sort of conversation with someone where they are treating you this way, then you have no way of knowing how you would react. And to act like that's the problem is also gross. So stop that.
Yeah, it's not about weakness. It's about like, our culture preaches that like love is one of the most important things, right? And so if you feel like you're in love with somebody, or at least care very deeply for them, you don't want to screw it up because of some dumb argument, and you just want to get back to things being okay. And shit hurts when you get rejected, and when people tell you that you've done something wrong, and you don't want to feel the pain, and so you'll do anything to not feel the pain. And that means kowtowing to the person that's making you hurt, and it can be hard to see through that sometimes. There's a lot of different reasons and a lot of different ways, and to just say, oh well, she should just obviously leave him, or whatever. It's not that simple. It's really not.
Yes, more complicated situation than it may seem. So just keep that in mind.
So that's where they stand. Cliff is going to talk with Holly and Jackson. He lets them know that Tommy is basically what him and Nicole had talked about. That Tommy is seeing that Jackson wants to keep Cliff around, and that's kind of sketchy. That Tommy is getting a little bit suspicious here.
Yeah, Tommy was saying, I don't know if I'm missing something. Like, it's weird how insistent Jackson is. And so that's a little bit of a problem that Cliff is reporting this back. But I still think ultimately it's going to work out okay.
Yeah, and so Jackson's response is like, oh well, I've just been saying that all the guys need to stick together, and Holly's like, yeah, you keep doing that, and I'm gonna pretend that I would prefer if Cliff leaves actually, but that I need to respect Jackson's HOH, and that's how we'll get around this. It'll look great. Jackson and Holly, master of being in the shadows and tricking people into not realizing that they're working with people.
Yeah, if there's one way I would describe Jackson and Holly's game, it would be under the radar. So
yeah,
it's working perfectly. A flawless plan. They have been up in that HOH room for so long that I'm excited to see what it's like when they're not up there, if that happens.
Yeah, that's it's been far too long, and I'm actually kind of upset that it's a double eviction, and that if they lose the double eviction, that they're not going to have a week of realization that they've screwed up.
Well, hopefully we'll get a nice hour of them realizing they screwed up, and then the following week they can dwell on it and really.
Well, you know what will happen is, like, one of them will leave in the double, and then they'll be like, "Oh my God, I screwed up." But then, Christy and Tommy would be like, "Hey, no, you didn't screw up. It was totally. We don't even know what happened there, but we want to work with you still."
Yeah, and again at that point, you'll take the life vest when it's offered.
And they'll be like, "Oh, how did I manage to do this? Now everyone wants to work with me again." I mean, yes, I lost my showman's partner. I think they were my showman's partner, but now I'm doing great.
It's like, yeah, it's brilliant. I've been playing chess, not checkers.
Yeah. So Jackson, Tommy, Christy, and Holly kind of get together. Tommy is letting them all know that he is using the veto on Christy. Jackson says he will be putting up Cliff in Christy's place, and that he would like for Jess to be voted out. He talked to Tommy, more privately, like, we can't be the only two guys left. He's been saying that for a long time. Yeah. Tommy keeps agreeing with him. Tommy does, though, float the idea, especially when they're all up in the room, of Jess might make a deal with you. Maybe it's worth hearing out what kind of deal Jess makes. He's kind of just, I think that Tommy is trying to get a sense of where Jackson's head is at in terms of one thing that Tommy and Christy talked about was that when Christy asked Jackson who he would choose between her and Cliff, he wouldn't answer the question. That freaks her out. So I think they're trying to figure out, like, which side is Jackson more loyal to. If we talk about, like, potentially keeping Jess and getting rid of Cliff, how receptive are they to that idea? And initially Jackson shoots it down, and Tommy's like, yeah, but I mean, if the deal's like a really, really good deal, and then Jackson's like, oh well, I'd hear it out. I'd hear it out, and that would be, yeah.
Yeah, Tommy's like, just do what's best for your game. If she offers you, like, an amazing deal, just do what's best for your game.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yes, thank you for the groundbreaking advice of do what's best for your game. Never would have thought of that.
Yeah, and so, like, they're floating these ideas. They think they're being subtle, but they're not. And this is where I actually feel like they're making a mistake, because this is a little bit like the idea of, like, checking in with somebody, like, either they're against you or they're for you. If you know, whether or not you know that doesn't matter. Like, Tommy knowing that Jackson would choose Cliff over him doesn't actually matter a whole lot, and this is not the best way to find out, even if he does really, really want to know, because you're going after Jackson anyway, and you're kind of showing your cards a little bit. They're realizing that this is happening, and this is also going to hurt Tommy with Cliff and Nicole, because as soon as Tommy and Christy leave, Jackson and Holly talk to Cliff, and they tell him, oh yeah, Tommy and Christy were just up here really trying hard to get Jess to stay and for you to go home. They thought they were being subtle, but they were really trying to push this, like, oh, Cliff's a threat, and maybe you should take a deal from Jess. And that's big progress lost for Tommy and Christy in terms of getting Cliff and Nicole to their side, and that's no good.
Yeah, and it's the thing where, like, at this point in the game, there's so few people left. You don't need to be as sneaky at this point. Like, basically, the way things lay, like, it is fluid and things could change, but it's not worth it to be playing these little mind games, because the things are happening, and I think at this point, like, I don't know. Like, I would personally be like, okay, well, there hasn't been a double yet. Cliff has done the math. He doesn't think they can do one without a buyback. So with them not even playing for it's going to be fun. I don't know. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, because again, I was praising Tommy yesterday for kind of just being like, okay, this is my situation. First of all, Jess isn't good for my game. She should be going anyway. But so now what I need to do is pivot toward Nicole and Cliff and get them on my side. I think that there is a case to be made, if you're Tommy, to bring them to your side. Especially if he works on them all week long. Jackson and Holly are busy doing their own thing. The more that Tommy decides that Jess is just a done deal and he's going to work on Cliff and Nicole, I think the more opportunity he has to actually flip them. I don't think it's in Cliff and Nicole's best interest, but Nicole is already wavering, and I do think that there's a chance that Cliff might buy into it if they play into it enough. But it's hard to know exactly where Cliff's head is at, whether or not he sees what I see, which is that I actually think that Jackson and Holly are easier to beat in the final four than Tommy and Christy. But either way, I think that's the play here, and I think it seemed like it was what he was doing the night before, but then he again kind of reversed some of that progress here, both with Jackson and Holly, sketching them out a little bit by campaigning against Cliff a little bit, and also now this is getting back to Cliff and Nicole, and that's going to kind of sketch them out a bit and continue to make them be like, well, I guess we can't trust Tommy and Christy if they're going to be talking about wanting to keep Jess. Now, I think this is probably the extent of that. I think they felt it out. They realized it wasn't going to happen, and I think that they might back off from this point and not even try anymore, because what happens after that, after Jackson and Holly let Cliff know that they were, trying to do this, Christy goes to Cliff and she promises that she's keeping him this week. Tommy goes to back to Jackson and Holly and says, I've already promised I'm keeping Cliff. Like, I think they felt it out, and now they're going to back away, and so they do have a few more days to back away from that position and go back to Cliff and Nicole and be like, no, we're with you. Don't believe when Jackson and Holly tell you that we're against you. That's just them trying to play us against each other.
Yeah, but I just think they're getting a little too cute. Like, all this stuff of being like, oh, is Tommy going to use the veto? I don't know. I think he's leaning towards it. Like, when Christy's talking to Cliff and she's like, yeah, Tommy's been hinting that he's going to use the veto. It's like, stop. Everybody knows he's using the veto.
Yeah. That's pretty typical, though.
Yeah, it's just like, just enough. I've had enough. It's too cute.
It's too cute. Yes. So Tommy talks with Jackson and Holly. Tommy's like, he's really trying to feel out Jackson and Holly, see what they're willing to do. And in his eyes, he's like, and this is what I warned Nicole about yesterday. Why didn't she hear me? When Nicole was telling Tommy that she feels hurt by Jess, he's like, here's the thing though, with Jess in the game is that Jess and Nicole, not good terms right now. And they're like, yeah, really? But no, it doesn't matter. We still need to keep Cliff. He's a guy. And he's like, okay, what about this one? Nicole goes on the block. Cliff and Jess, even worse terms.
Yeah, and the thing too with this is that Tommy literally is like, I hope you don't think that I'm pitching for Jess to stay, but here's this great pitch for Jess to stay.
Yeah. Ooh,
Like it's
bad move.
not good. Like you've already touched the hot stove once. Don't touch it again.
Yes.
Like it's like he was like, okay, well, I touched this burner. The front left was hot, but you know what? I'm gonna try the front right and see how that is. Oh, it's hot too. Interesting. The whole stove is on.
Now, again, I do think this could end up working in their favor. Again, it's very, very dangerous for Tommy to have taken that conversation with Nicole and immediately rushed it over to Jackson Holly and then basically stabbed her right in the back. Like, why don't you put Nicole on the block and send her home? But I think when this gets back to Nicole, if she comes back to Tommy with it, he can play it up like, what? No, I never wanted you on the... Why are they trying to play us against each other like this? Oh, man, this is exactly what I was afraid of. And there's a chance Nicole might buy into that. So watch out for that. But overall, I don't like this from Tommy. It shouldn't require that kind of damage control. Nicole was never going on the block. Nicole was never going home. Cliff is never going home. There's no point in trying to float these ideas in the first place. You should recognize the situation and start working from there instead of trying to, feel out these other things, in my opinion.
Yeah,
it's fine to feel them out, but not so obviously.
Yeah, it just seems like Tommy thinks that he is in charge right now, and he's not.
Yeah, well...
Like, he may be again at some point. It could happen. It's very easy to see the scenario where he is. But at this point in time, based on who's HOH, based on who will be voting, it's not going to happen. And he's only going to do damage to himself by trying to make it.
Yeah. And not to mention the fact that if for whatever reason this worked and does he even want to keep Jess, or is he just feeling them out? Because he shouldn't want to keep Jess. It's not good for his game. Jess was targeting him in this HOH and is loyal only to Christy. That's not great for Tommy.
Yeah, she waited that whole game for Christy, not for Christy and Tommy.
Yeah, I actually feel like Tommy has a decent shot moving forward, especially if he can win Cliff and Nicole to his side, because I think that Jackson and Holly would want Christy gone first, and I think that that Cliff and Nicole might be open to that, especially if Tommy is the one approaching them with the what if they're playing us both kind of thing, that Christy is the easy person to just take out first, and then once Christy's gone, then it's a lot easier for Tommy to pitch to Cliff and Nicole. Guys, are you really going to choose them over little old me? And
they're a pair. We have to split them up.
Exactly.
I'm by myself. I'm alone in this game. I will work with you and do whatever you need to do. It's a really easy move. Being that fifth person between two duos, that incredible spot that Davon turned down is it's the dream, truly. Especially to have gotten down to it, right?
Yeah, and though I will say, I still think that Cliff and Nicole should choose Jackson and Holly over Tommy at that point, because I think Tommy beats them in the final two, which is dangerous, and also I think Tommy's better at mental competitions than both Jackson and Holly. So
yeah, it's honestly, it is a little bit of a tightrope. Cliff and Nicole have the path, but it's not an easy, this is very clear path. Because you wouldn't think, oh, yeah, we'll go with the other pair and we'll just go down to it with them. Normally you think, oh, no, we have to take a shot before it gets there. But in this situation, it's not the move. So yeah, very interested to see how they walk that tightrope.
Yeah, I'm very, it's super interesting, and I'm excited to see this play out here. So Christy does go to Cliff. She promises that she's going to keep him in the game this week. She was a vote for him this week. She points out that it does seem like Jackson is... I feel like Jackson's making everyone believe that they're working with him. Cliff's like, yeah, I think that's right. I think he's doing that with everyone.
Yeah, it's really nice when you bring these theories to Cliff and he can just kind of nod and agree, and he doesn't have to actually say anything that could be used against him later. Because he's just like, yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Well, it's because Christy was excited when Tommy said that they compared notes, and that it seems like Jackson's trying to work both sides, and that maybe they can come together with Cliff and Nicole. And Christy is she's like, I've always wanted to work with Cliff. I love him. Like she does, I think, want to get on his good side. So she's trying to have that same moment that Tommy had with Nicole with Cliff. So she's trying to cue this up, like, hey, don't you think they're playing both sides? What do you say we compare notes here? And Cliff obliges a bit, but it's not like the revelatory, like, oh my God kind of thing that she probably wanted.
Yeah, well, and it's the thing too where like Nicole is more emotional than Cliff. So it's a lot easier to have those conversations with her, whereas Cliff is always going to kind of have that wall up.
Yeah. So she does say that, Jackson, he thinks he has me. He doesn't. He is my biggest threat in this game. She's very open about it. She's not on the block, or she won't be on the block this week anymore. So this is a lot less incriminating than it was the last time she did it. Yeah. But it's still, it's a lot of ammunition for Cliff to use. It's further solidification of Cliff staying this week, that even if they did continue to try to flip the vote, now Cliff has even more ammunition against them to stay in the game. But again, I think she's revealing this because she no longer even plans to try. I think she's just now, I think at this point, now they're finally pivoting. Okay, we felt it out. Now we understand Cliff is staying. We got to work on Cliff and Nicole.
Yes, her contract with Jackson is still null and void, and so she needs to work with Cliff and Nicole.
Yes. So Holly and Jackson talk about these pitches, these floated ideas from Tommy and Christy, and Jackson, of course, for the third week in a row, I'm pretty sure, says, Holly, you need to throw this next HOH. For sure, you need to throw this next. You need to throw this next H. You need to throw the next 2 HOHs.
Yeah, they have to avoid showing their cards, so they should not win.
Oh boy.
I mean, it hasn't worked out great the last few times they were going to throw an HOH, so I don't see it happening.
They should be very glad that they're very bad at following through with their plans, because they'd be so gone from the house if they followed through with this.
Yeah, it's not good. Holly definitely needs to be gunning for the double HOH. And I feel like once the double is announced, any thought of throwing it will be out the window. She'll be like, no, I need to play for Jackson and myself.
Yes, and I will say that this time, Holly said, yes, I agree. I should throw the HOH. But I am starting to worry about Tommy and Christy. That whole thing, them pushing like that, like, I'm starting to feel like, what? Yeah. Are they at some point? I love Tommy. I do. And I don't want to betray Tommy. I don't want to lie to Tommy. I don't want to do anything bad to Tommy at all. But are they at some point going to think like they don't want to be in the end with us because they don't want to compete against us? I think I'm just a little bit... I trust Cliff and Nicole. They're not going to turn on us. I trust them. But I'm worried. I'm a little bit worried about, like, when do Tommy and Christy turn on us here? And Jackson's like, it's a good point. It's a good point. That they maybe need to start to worry about that. They should have been worrying about this 2 weeks ago, but they're thinking, what if, like, 2 weeks from now, we really need to start worrying about this?
And it's like, what do they think is happening in the next 2 weeks that they don't need to be worried? Like, I don't understand that level of delusion. And it truly does just come from having the power for so long. Like Jackson winning so many consecutive competitions, Holly winning the ones to fill in the gaps. Like, it truly has messed with their minds.
Yes. So, we'll see. Again, I feel like she's not going to throw. I know we've done this like 3 times in a row now, yeah. But I feel like she's not going to throw it, especially now, especially this week. I think that she has enough worry in her, and it's going to be a double, which is going to scare her. I think the second they see it's a double, they're going to be like, oh my God, this is their time. They're going to take the shot. I feel like the bell is going to ring in their head, and they're going to be scared, and they should be.
The adrenaline, I think, will be pumping for everyone, but especially for Jackson and Holly.
Mm-hmm. So, we'll see. We'll see. There wasn't a whole lot else on the feeds last night. Jackson talked about how he did his like little Q&A, and one of the questions he got was if Holly was on the block next to all the watermelon in the world, who would you choose to evict?
He would evict the watermelon because he could have made it through the summer without watermelon, but he couldn't do it without Holly.
Yeah.
And I honestly don't think he could make it through the summer without watermelon.
I agree.
But it's cute that he thinks that he could. But I also feel like that moment is him just trying to like also smooth things over a little bit with Holly. Like, look, it's a cute lovey-dovey moment. Everything's okay. It's like, no, it's not okay.
Yes, Holly passed her test. She made it through a whole day without bringing up any naggy issues, and so now they're as long as they don't have to talk about it, they can be lovey-dovey again.
Yeah, well, they had a long discussion about the fight from the night before where Holly's like, oh, I'm hormonal. It's like a chemical imbalance. You don't even understand what it's like. And at one point, Jackson's like, Holly's a great girl 40 weeks out of the year. And it's like, I have had enough of this. Like, there are people who have like legitimate issues where hormones really mess things up for them. The average person, it's like, no, just cut it out. And then like I know Jessica made a comment that like if a woman were to ever be president, they would need to be postmenopausal. And I'm here to tell you, people in menopause and postmenopausal have issues too. What are you talking about?
Jess, women empowerment Jess says females can't be president until they no longer have periods.
Yeah, and Christy agreed.
What?
Like, I can't believe that it is 2019 and that is something that I watched on my computer yesterday.
Boy.
And it was real. Like, it happened. Because I'm sitting there and I'm watching and I was like, I'm going to have to talk about this. Like, this is a real thing that happened that I'm going to have to address.
Yeah.
Enough.
So, anything else you wanted to bring up, Kirsten?
There was some actual fun stuff. So in the morning, Cliff was working with messing with the time on the clocks to set everything forward by 2 hours. And then everyone's really trying to play along with that. And I thought it was a really fun Jackson moment when they're like, it's 1 o'clock, it's 1 p.m. And he like looks up at the sun and he's like, it's not 1 o'clock. It's like,
you can't trick
Grandpa.
Jackson.
Like
Jackson
oh yes,
knows all.
He can read the time from the sun. Cool. And then Cliff put a bouillon cube in Christy's drink, and that was
really grossed her out.
Really grossed her out.
She was like, "Oh, everyone needs to try this." She made everyone else try it.
Well, and Holly was like, "Oh, well, when you expect it, it's not that bad." And then Nicole's like, "Oh, it shouldn't be salty. That's so weird." It's just, I don't know. It's like my hairdresser was doing keto for a while, and at one point she was like cutting my hair and she just got a glass of hot water and put a bouillon cube in it. It was just like chugging it. And I was like, I don't think this is good for you. That's all I could think of. Yeah. And then Tommy says he doesn't know Caitlin Herman, but he loves her at one point in the day. Same.
Well, we do know that he contacted her. She said so on a podcast.
Well, he said he doesn't know her, but he loves her. And I'm going to say
somebody's lying.
I also don't know her and I love her. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. There was it was late last night because I couldn't sleep last night. Jess and Nicole were having like a really disgusting saga popping a pimple.
Oh God.
And it was so gross. And Jessica was like, I'm going to have to pick this scab first before I pop it. And I don't know who needs to hear this. Don't pick scabs. And don't pop acne if you're not like a licensed esthetician who knows what you're doing. Don't let someone pull a hairpin out to pop your pimple. It was truly horrifying. I had nightmares.
I mean, at least Nick isn't there anymore. He was one of the biggest in terms of the zip popping. Jackson liked to pop his, but why?
Yeah, I know it's a thing that people are into. I will never be one of those people. But just like it's really bad for your skin to pop it. Just don't. Just wait it out. Put some ice on it if it's swollen. Use a hot compress. Use a nice chemical exfoliant, glycolic acid. Don't pop your pimples, and please don't pop them where I have to watch you popping them.
And you know what? It's not just the house guests. I also find the cameramen to be very culpable in this tragedy.
They zoom right
atrocity. They go extreme close up. No.
I just, please, any future house guests, don't pop them. It's just going to make it worse, and then it's going to be bigger and redder, and then you're on TV with an even worse pimple. So, again, ice, hot compresses, chemical exfoliant. That's all you need.
With that, I think we're done here.
Yeah, I think we're done for the day.
We'll be live tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern for the Roundtable podcast. We'll recap the entire week on the feeds and go through each player and give them a rating in the stock watch, as well as plenty of other things. Make sure you head to Twitter at Armstrong Taran. You can find the survey there if you want to fill it out and rate the players and all of that other fun stuff. I'll be back tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern to update you on everything that happens today on the Big Brother 21 live feeds. And then Wednesday, we'll be live with Sam.
Send it.
Yes, to talk about the Wednesday night episode. And then Thursday, the double eviction will be live. Should be very fun. And next week, we're going to be in New York.
How salty are you that the double eviction is 1 week before the live show?
I'm super annoyed.
Yeah.
Especially if the live show ends up being like a reset or something. Because that's what happened.
Oh, no!
That's what happened the last time we did a live show in New York. It was Halting Hex Rise night.
Oh no! I didn't even think about that part of it.
Right?
Oh no! Well, at least you'll have great guests. It'll be a lot of fun. I'm really I'm sad that I can't make it out, but that's okay.
Yes, lots of fun people coming, except for Kirsten, who's not.
That's okay. You guys will survive without me. It'll be fine. I'll just be here at home alone. It's fine.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us today. Kirsten, where can people find you?
They can find me on social media at Kirsten Said What on Instagram and Twitter. And then as of right now, the only other thing I've got going on is Riverdale recaps over on Kowski Cast. That's Cow with a K. I'm not sure what the current schedule for that is because Mary's off gallivanting at a wedding, but there will continue to be Riverdale recaps.
So much gallivanting. Once again, find me on Twitter at Armstrong Taran for the survey, and you can find me on Twitch as well, twitch.tv/Taran Armstrong. Thank you once again for joining us. I'll see you next time.